My name is Norbert Klopsch. I'm the city manager here in Oakwood, and I welcome you to this meeting. I'm glad you're here, and I hope when we're done, you'll leave with a little bit of a better understanding about how the purchase of natural gas and electricity now works here in the state of Ohio. Most of the program tonight will be delivered by a representative from the Public Utilities Commission, but I just want to make a few statements kind of out of the chute here. It's been more than a decade ago, sometime in the late 1990s, when utility deregulation happened here, or began here in Ohio. And it happened in a couple different steps, but essentially we moved away from a fully regulated public utility system where a state body, a commission, essentially regulated the amount that we all pay for natural gas and electricity. And in theory, what they did is they ensured that we paid what they considered a fair amount for each of those two commodities. Then we went to this deregulated environment where now we all have choices in what to buy. And from my own personal perspective, I think it made everything more complicated. Life was easier when we all paid one price, and if we trusted the PUCO, then we felt good about what we were paying, or at least comfortable with what we were paying, and everybody was okay. Now we're all bombarded with mailers. Most recently, and frankly, what prompted us hosting this meeting tonight is that we have different companies starting to go door to door here in Oakwood soliciting, and it's not just in our community; it's in all the communities around the region and throughout Ohio. And the reason that they're going door to door is simple. The mailings yield very, very low results. Most people take that mailer, quite frankly, like I do, and put it right in the trash. They find that when they go door to door, they end up getting more folks' attention, and ultimately they sign more people up for whatever plan that particular solicitor is selling. So the ultimate objective here tonight is to try to educate us all on how the system works, and equally important, give you an opportunity to ask Jack Keegan, our expert here tonight, whatever questions you might have. In 2003, November of 2003, for those who have lived here a long time, we voted here in Oakwood to authorize City Council to aggregate on behalf of the community. And what that essentially means is that if Council decided that it made sense, they could pass legislation that would essentially put all of our accounts together, and we would do one combined purchase of either electricity or natural gas or both with a selected vendor that we would pick from City Hall. And every account in Oakwood would be subject to that vendor unless a resident or a property owner opted out, and there was a procedure whereby you could do that. Since 2003, we've only aggregated one time. We did it once for natural gas, and we did it that one time because we had an assurance that the deal that we were setting up and basically obligating all of our property owners to, we had a guarantee that that was going to be cheaper for us than at the time the regulated DP&L rate. So there was no way that we could lose, and we could look you all in the eye and say you're going to pay less for a one-year period for your natural gas than you would otherwise pay. That program only lasted 1 year. When it came up for a renewal, we found that the new terms were different, and we could no longer guarantee a savings. In other words, as the market fluctuates, which it does considerably, particularly I think for the natural gas, we could find ourselves, if we had renewed it, in a situation where we locked in for a second year, and then the price may have dropped in the private market, and we would have been worse off than had we not continued that aggregation program. So we've only done it one time, and quite honestly, City Council and I are hesitant to have our local government here get too involved in this particular arena. And I guess I'll say that the main reason for that is that the folks that are selling the natural gas and the electricity are experts. and they have all the right people to know how to best predict the future prices of these commodities. We don't have that expertise, and so basically we'd be going up against a group of folks that are much better informed and educated about this whole business than we are. So we figure it's a bit dicey for us to get involved in it, and that's why we've only done it the one time when we could tell you that it's a guaranteed savings. So what that unfortunately leaves us to is all having to decide for ourselves, if we want to go with alternate suppliers or stay with the normal DP&L and Vectren suppliers. Two other comments here before I turn it over to Jack. One, I guess just one comment. We are filming the meeting this evening, just for your information. The Miami Valley Communications Council folks are in the back here, and this will be rebroadcast on the MVCC channels, which is channel 6 for Time Warner and 99 for AT&T, and it'll also be available to view on our website here probably later this week. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jack Keegan. Jack is as I said earlier, he works for the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. He tells me he's a 2010 graduate of The Ohio State University with a political science degree, had a short stint working in the state legislature, and is now with the PUCO, and he has a PowerPoint presentation here. He did talk to City Council and I a couple months ago and gave us essentially the briefing that you're going to get tonight, and we found it useful and therefore want to share it with the community. So please welcome Jack Keegan.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Jack Keegan. I'm with the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. I'm a public information officer for the commission. So what that means is I host workshops like these across the state, basically educating people on energy choice, answering any questions they might have, hopefully dispelling any myths you might have about choosing a new supplier or staying with your current utility. So with that, let me just kind of launch into the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have at the end of the presentation. So I guess with that, so today we're going to try to go over 3 things in today's presentation. The first is a basic overview of the utility structure as it is now. Like Norb said, a lot has changed since the late 90s. Number 2, what are the Public Utilities Commission's tools and resources for residential consumers? What can you guys take out of this and go home with? 3 is what are the consumer rights and responsibilities? When people go door to door and start knocking, what do you guys have as consumers to protect you as consumers, and what you guys should be looking for as far as your contracts go? So with that, we'll kind of go into a little bit of an overview of what is electric and natural gas choice. Electric and natural gas choice basically is the opportunity to purchase electric or natural gas supply from an alternative supplier from your utility. So as we said, in late 1990s, 96 and 1999, the Ohio legislature decided to restructure the Ohio's energy market and made the generation side of things or the supply side of things competitive. While they made the generation side of things competitive, they mandated regulated pricing for the transmission and distribution side of things. So Dayton Power and Light, Vectren, all of those will still be regulated companies under the Public Utilities Commission. They're not going away. The Public Utilities Commission and the FERC will still mandate regulated pricing for those. The thing that customers now have the opportunity to choose on is who's generating that electric or natural gas supply and where is it coming from. So that's what a lot of people are really interested in now, and that's what I'm trying to, I guess, get through to you. With that comes a lot of responsibilities on consumers, hopefully responsibilities that people can take advantage of. But I guess to best explain how it works is to kind of take you back to the regulated, I guess back in the 1990s when it was regulated. Back when it was regulated, the entire, I guess, the generation, transmission, and distribution, that was all regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. We mandated pricing for electricity services. If somebody wanted to install a new electricity plant, we mandated or we set a price for that. If they wanted to build new transmission lines or distribution lines, we also regulated that. All that the 1996 and 1999 laws allowed was that large consumers, small businesses, and residential consumers would have an ability to choose different suppliers than who may be currently serving them, and for maybe cheaper or alternative pricing models. So some things that haven't changed. You still receive the same safe, reliable service. Those transmission lines and distribution lines will still be regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. So if you enjoy the regularity in which you receive electricity or natural gas, that's not going away. You still will call your local utility in case of a power outage. As we said, Dayton Power and Light and Vectren are not going away. So if there's ever a power outage during a storm, they are the first people to call and to notify. Third, non-choice customers will still receive the same service. Again, this is an opportunity for consumers, not a mandate. So you guys have the ability to choose new suppliers, but it's not mandated that you choose a new supplier. And finally, low-income programs like PIP and HEAP will still continue for those Ohioans that take advantage of those. So moving on, what are the consumer response? The consumer response in the past decade has been, extremely good. 2.3 million customers are already taking advantage of electricity choice. 1.7 million are already taking advantage of natural gas choice. So a lot of consumers, especially in the northeast side of the state, are already taking advantage of these programs, already choosing a new supplier that might have a better opportunity for them to either save money or provide them other alternatives that they might be interested in with their natural gas or electric supply. I guess one thing to kind of take into consideration on the consumer response, just from how long I've been working there, I've been only doing this for about a year, but just in the last year, we've had over 100,000 new customers of the Dayton Power and Light region taking advantage of this opportunity. So this is something that's growing. Dayton Power and Light is definitely growing. That's why you're seeing those door-to-door marketers, because people see an opportunity here to sell electric and natural gas supply. So I guess the first people to switch over to the new competitive model to start pricing were those large manufacturing plants, the GM plants, the Hondas, that have a large amount of electricity they're using, or they're using a lot of natural gas. So obviously, they have a lot of engineers. They have experts that are working for them that can tell you exactly how much, what's a good price for electricity and natural gas. But most residential consumers don't have that kind of time to sit at home and try to figure out exactly what they're paying for electric and natural gas and what sort of savings they might see with a new competitive supplier. So what the Public Utilities Commission did was we designed two tools to help consumers compare rates and make it as easy as possible for consumers, especially residential consumers, to find out exactly what they're paying for their electricity service. The first is the price to compare. The second is the apples to apples. So the first is price to compare. The price to compare is what you're currently paying for your electricity generation. It's about 50% of your bill. And it's located on all Dayton Power and Light consumers' bills. That's something that is mandated by the Public Utilities Commission of Dayton Power and Light. You will find that on all your Dayton Power and Light bills. It'll say something like, in order for you to save money, it has to be lower than the price of, and it will list what you're currently paying for a price to compare. That price to compare model is based on what energy prices are on that current month. So you might see your price to compare go up or down depending on your usage or time of year. So those things do affect it. The gas, you'll see the price to compare is a little different for gas. The gas is called a standard choice offer rate. The way that they bundle gas services is a little different than electricity services. Standard choice offer is a fixed rate for all customers of a given area, which is a little different than price to compare, which is going to be different depending on how much electricity you use, and yours could be a little different than your neighbor depending on how much they're using versus how much you're using. So that brings us to our second tool. Obviously, just knowing how much you're paying for your electricity service might not be too useful if you don't have any ability to guess what's a good price for electricity service. So that's where we put together our apples to apples energy charts. They're available for both natural gas and electricity customers. What we do is we require them, all the CREST suppliers, we ask them once a week, how much are you currently paying for electricity and natural gas service? What are you charging consumers? And then we list it on our website. So it's that one easy, one-stop shop where you can find out what natural gas prices are going for, and what electricity prices are going for. You'll see prices listed, contract length, termination fees, and if there's any other product offerings available as well. And we'll go into that a little bit more in a second. This is what the basic chart looks like, and I know it's probably hard for you guys in the back to see this, but what it basically lays out is it has a number of companies' names that are trying to sell electricity supply to residential consumers, and then it will list how much it's currently offering to consumers, how long that contract length is, as well as any termination fees or things like that. So it's all up front, and customers can feel secured that they can compare apples to apples and really find out what the best price is or the best contract for them is. So some things to consider on contracts. We get a lot of questions on what questions we should be, as consumers, what you guys should be asking. So I would say the first place to try to figure it out is what's the price going to be. There's two or three different pricing models. The first is a fixed price that is exactly how it sounds. You're going to pay a fixed price per kilowatt hour for the length of the contract. So if you lock in for 7 cents per kilowatt hour, you'll be paying that fixed price for the remainder of that contract. Variable prices are a little different. Variable prices will go up and down with the prices of energy, but usually it guarantees residential consumers some sort of savings on it. So I guess just like that price to compare I said goes up and down with energy prices from month to month, you'll also see that variable price go up and down variable price go up and down month to month, but usually the way that they structure those rates is that it guarantees certain savings. So a lot of times customers can feel secure in that, but it's not for everyone. Length of the contract is important. You can lock in for a month to month, go month to month with a company. You can go for 6 months. You can go for 3 years. Those contract lengths are all dependent on you as a consumer and what you're willing to your risk as far as that goes. Renewable energy options, we get a tremendous amount of response from this. A lot of people are interested in, investing in green energy, wind energy, things like that. Those kind of products are available in the market, and those are all listed on our apples to apples chart as well. Budget billing, if you're a budget billing customer, make sure you ask your new Crest supplier if they offer budget billing. Some do, but unfortunately not all do. So if you are a budget billing, you enjoy that, maybe that's something to ask your company up front. Termination fees. Termination fees are usually a lightning rod. There are products available for people that are interested in having zero termination fees. There are also products that have a $100 termination fee. Just like cell phones or other contracts, there's sometimes a penalty for leaving a contract early, and that's where termination fees comes in. Any local buying groups. I guess we were just told about Oakwood's aggregation program. That would be an example of a local buying group that some people might want to join. If it comes back, that might be something to keep your ear to the ground for, to see what sort of savings that might lead to. What happens when the contract expires? Once your contract expires, once you lock in how long your contract's going to go, there is going to be a point where your contract's up. It's better to ask on the front end, what's going to happen to my contract? Am I going to go month to month with this company? Am I going to be kicked back to the local utility? So that's a good question to ask on the front end to figure out exactly where your contract goes at the end of it. It's a lot easier to ask these kind of questions on the front end with contracts than try to figure it out once you've signed a contract. So consumer outreach and protection, that's where the Public Utilities Commission comes in and the Attorney General comes in, as well as you as, responsible residential consumers comes in as well. The first is use common sense. Just like some people might be wary of buying something door-to-door on a lot of other products. If you're not interested in working with a supplier, whatever mode they're using, whether it's TV commercials, anything, again, it's an opportunity but not a mandate. You don't have to be pushed into any contract that you're not interested in being in. Protect your personal information. A lot of times door-to-door marketers ask for your bill. You have the ability not to give them your bill. What they're going to do is probably just point out that price to compare on it, but your bill is going to have personal information on it that might have your account number, your address, your name, and just like you wouldn't hand over your driver's license to an individual that just asked for it, you would also want to protect that bill as well because it does have personal information on it. Read and fully understand your contract. I can't say that enough. The contract is what's in the contract is what you're gonna have to live with for the length of the contract. So best to ask the questions on the front end. Make sure that exactly what you talked with the person over the phone is exactly what's in the bill. I would ask for a hard copy of anything you sign, just like a mortgage. You wouldn't take somebody's word for it. I would also ask for an electric or natural gas supplier to also provide you that hard copy so you can take your time, read it over, maybe you take a night and really review it. Finally, take your time and ask questions. We have a great website, the Public Utilities Commission, puco.ohio.gov, that has a lot of questions, a lot of information on it. So make sure you take your time, go to our apples to apples chart, and make sure you're taking the time to ask those kind of questions. So that kind of comes to the end of the presentation. This is usually where the audience has a lot more questions for me at the end. So if you guys do have any questions, I'd be happy to. If I could just point out one interesting, or I guess one great resource for consumers, it's our SMED hotline. This is our Service Monitoring Enforcement Division. They're great individuals. If you give them a call, they're always helpful. We've had really great response from it. They're available to answer any questions. If you guys don't have access to the internet and can't get those apples to apples charts, we will send you one for no charge. So take advantage of them. If you guys do have questions about contracts on the back end, we also have an investigation team that works with the Attorney General to start, to investigate any claims that people have against Crest suppliers or utilities. So if you guys do have any questions, after I leave, please take advantage of this great resource for you. It's available on all those red cards that I have on the back, as well as it's going to be on your utility bill when you get home. So, yeah, if you guys do have any questions, yes, sir.
Earlier you mentioned two numbers. People who have changed, one was 1.7 million,
Yep.
one was 2.3.
Yes.
How many total customers are there in the state?
Yeah, in the entire state, I would say there's, I could get you that information.
Many more than 2.3 or 1.
Yeah, yes, definitely, and
So
right.
you're telling us a very small percentage.
Right, and really, it depends on the state, the area of the state you're in. In the Dayton Power and Light area, you've got around 40% of the individuals that are shopping right now as far as electric consumers. Up in the Cleveland area, where prices are much higher as far as electricity goes, you're going to see 70 to 80% of shoppers going to competitive retail electric suppliers. So, and again, it's not residential consumers haven't a lot of the companies haven't been reaching out to consumers like they have in the last year or two. So it's going to take a little bit longer for a lot of the consumers to jump aboard if they're interested. But again, it's an opportunity. So
I have another question. It seems to me, everybody's shopping for a better deal. If it's the same commodity, it's like gasoline. It seems to me that if it all goes through DP&L and Vector, and you change, there'd be another company in the mix, all
Right.
earning income.
yeah.
I mean, it would surprise me how we could get a better deal through somebody else. Also, I want to ask Norm, if the door-to-door solicitation is legal in Oakwood.
Yeah, let me take the first, and I'll leave the door-to-door to Norm. But I guess the other thing you might be surprised at is Vectren itself. Vectren Energy Delivery Ohio doesn't actually supply you with natural gas at all. They're out of the supply business, and they have been for a few years. What they do is they host auctions and have competitive suppliers supply you with natural gas, and they just service the pipes. But as far as Dayton Power and Light's concerned, they are still responsible for the transmission and distribution of electricity, just like Vectren just runs the pipes. But I guess there are other. I guess with the competitive retail market, it allows new individuals, new companies to come in, build generation plants, and try to run them more efficiently. And then there's that advantage there. If they can sell electricity into the grid cheaper, more companies and individuals, residential consumers, will take advantage of them. Yeah,
let me address the solicitation question. You may have read in the paper recently that the City Council passed a new ordinance dealing with solicitation. Our ordinance previous to that allowed for door-to-door solicitation unless someone, a property owner, had requested to be added to the do not solicit list. Now that applied and still does apply only to door-to-door solicitation, which is people going door-to-door to sell something. It does not apply to canvassers, in other words, people going door-to-door to promote a cause or to solicit your support for an upcoming election or that sort of thing. So the new ordinance, the old ordinance allowed door-to-door from 9 to 9. The new one limits the solicitation part to 9 to 6 p.m. So if you don't mind folks coming to your door, then don't worry about the do not solicit list. If you don't want folks coming to your door, you simply need to be added to the list. You can do that by going to our website. You'll see on the home page there's a simple way to do it. I've got some forms here that I'll leave on the back table that you can grab on your way out. Just very simple to fill in, and that'll get your name added onto that. What we've also done with the new ordinance is required every solicitor to get a license before they start going door to door. So they have to go to City Hall and visit the Public Safety Department and obtain this license. We don't issue the license until we do a background check, and we can do that very quickly with the equipment that we have. So we can verify in our police department that the people are legitimate and okay to go door to door throughout the city.
You mentioned that the chart you can see weekly will give the weekly rate for that week.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's going in to look for the first time and then trying to make a decision, well, presumably those rates can change.
Yes.
So I'm not sure how helpful that would be, but what's your experience? What is the swing in rate for, I don't know, a year? Could it be a tenth of a cent or a nickel or a dime? I don't know.
Right.
I've got to understand what this weekly rate's going to mean.
Right.
6 months from now, or I don't know.
Right. Well, there are, as I've seen kind of just in the last year, definitely I've seen a lot more consumers interested in it. We've seen more retail electric suppliers enter the market. But as far as pricing goes, I do get, you're not going to see that crazy swing up and down as far as just, unlike the stock market sometimes, you're not going to get that crazy swing up and down with prices. Most of the companies that procure electricity or run plants, those prices are pretty locked in for a standard number of months. But the things that might change, that I have seen change, is the incentives that companies offer. So there might be a 1 week incentive for somebody, just for a company to kind of test a product, to see how many people would be interested in a 7 year, 7 year long contract. We've seen those sort of things enter and exit the market, but not really as far as a great swing in electric or natural gas prices in a certain region. So we can't guarantee any rates or anything are gonna stabilize for the long term, but we can say that over 1 week to the next, you're not going to see a large fluctuation, or that's not been my experience with seeing the rates go up and down.
Yes, sir. The companies that are going to hassle us about our gas or our electric.
I guess hassle. I could say that every one of the companies that is featured on our apples to apples chart is certified to advertise to consumers. So whether it's direct mail, I can't tell you how many companies are actively engaging in direct mail, and I also can't say how many are doing door-to-door marketing. That's a local ordinance. As he said, they passed a anti-solicitation bill. We don't regulate those kind of things on a statewide level.
But if you have an apples to apples,
Yep.
we have them listed, and we couldn't see what the companies' names were, so we have no concept.
Okay.
So what were they?
Right.
Along with that question,
Yeah.
if we go to it, I suspect there are certain companies that service Southwest Ohio and different ones that serve Cleveland. So the chart we would look, would it based on our zip code to tell us which ones operate in this area?
That's an excellent question. I think I'll tying both together. When you go to our website, when you go to the Apples to Apples chart website, let me kind of pull it up and see. Well, when you go to the Public Utilities Commission website, and I'll try to get you there, when you get to the Public Utilities Commission website, usually the first thing that pops up, or one of the tabs down here, is going to be the Apples to Apples rate chart. So you want to click on that. Then after that, you're going to it's going to basically ask you what customer, what region are you in. So you click the Dayton Power and Light region, or the Vectren region if you're choosing for natural gas. So you want to click that. Then that would list about 20, 25 offers, depending on the week, depending on the area of the state you're in. And then that would feature all of the companies that currently are marketing to you as a consumer in that area. So if you, I guess, yeah, it's a lot easier to see on a computer than to see about 40 feet away on a giant screen. But I would promise you can go to our website. It will feature all of the companies that are certified, that give us offers every week. And in addition, you can kind of be, I guess, a bit secure that all of the companies that we feature on our website, or any of the companies that market to you as individuals, have all been certified by the Public Utilities Commission. So we've gone through their financial, managerial standards. We're making sure that they're keeping up with Ohio regulation and law. We also can penalize them if there's been any issues or complaints, things like that. Luckily, we've had a pretty good experience so far with most companies. But if you guys have issues with certain companies, please let us know. We do sit down with the companies. We do try to work those things out, or try to get you back to what you thought was your standard service. So we do try to work with consumers. We also get the Crest suppliers involved as well. So that would be just a good resource if you feel like you're being hassled, things like that. Please give us a call. We do try to crack down on those things. But just like every industry, trying to find those telemarketers is something of a slippery issue. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to talk about the bar graph that you have there before.
Yes, ma'am.
And I personally find it very misleading. I don't know if that's backing up the gentleman's concern about it. Bar graphs, if you don't show the rest of the population, it tells me nothing except the number, the raw number, which you already have written out. So I don't know if that's helpful for your presentation, but it does not help me to understand the percentages in Ohio.
Okay. Well, I would say, you can go to our website, puco.ohio.gov. You can check the switching rates in your area by small business, by residential consumer, and in total. And that's all public information that's available. I just chose this just because it's an easy graph that most people can understand. Maybe it's too easy, but yeah, you can go to our website. That information is all publicly available. So.
And what we heard before about after 1 year, the price rose, I suspect will probably be the consequence of people changing to other suppliers. Excuse me. My throat's not great tonight. And so I can see customers having to jump through the hoops again, finding another supplier that will have a competitive rate, and then the next year another supplier having a competitive rate. And it's not clear to me why the Public Utilities Commission cannot manage to provide limits on what, say, DP&L charges or Vectren charges in the first place, instead of having to, I know that deregulation is the trend. I understand that, and it's competition and all the rest of it. But I don't think it solves my problem as an individual consumer. Maybe it solves the company's problem, but as an individual, trying to control the cost, it doesn't solve that problem, because I can see in a year's time it'll start all over again.
Well, again, just if it makes you feel any better, you can stay with that standard regulated price for a while. There's no looking to restructure the total market. Again, it's an opportunity. If you're not interested at all in looking at the competitive retail suppliers or the pricing that's offered, I would say you're fine staying with your standard offer. You can see how much you're paying for your competitive, what you're currently paying, and if you're okay with that, that's fine with us. We're not telling you to shop or not to shop. Yes, ma'am.
Let me comment on that for a moment. You're touching on what I find most troubling about this whole thing, and that is that if you choose to engage in this shopping and signing of contracts and all, then then you really need to be all in. In other words, you need to then pay attention to what's going on and keep up with it. Because what happens is with some of these contracts, as Jack mentioned earlier, when you get to the end of it, you automatically roll into something else. And that's always in the fine print. And sometimes that something else ends up being different than what you expected and much less beneficial to you. I personally, just my own personal decision is to not get involved. Now, some of my colleagues will tell me and they'll show me that I am paying more, for instance, for electricity by just sticking with the regulated DP&L rate than I would pay if I chose one of these other suppliers. But I just personally have decided that it's not worth my time and effort. I don't have the personal interest in trying to keep up with this stuff. Again, a personal choice. There are roughly, as Jack mentioned, 40% here in the region, to address your question about this slide here, that have switched, which means that a majority of the customers in the DP&L region have not, and have simply decided to stay with what they've been used to. So again, I think to reiterate, if you
when the promotion, if I just say one other thing, when the promotion is so much more reasonable than what DP&L is charging, as an example, the promotion can be $5 something, DP&L is charging $9 something. That's a big difference, right? And that's a big come on. That's a promotional gimmick, as far as I'm concerned, which is a one-year contract, and that's it. And so that concerns me, and it concerns me also that the Public Utilities Commission cannot manage to bring down what it is that DP&L will charge us, which doesn't seem to be possible ever. Only goes up and up and up, right? So I have those two concerns aside from the bar graph.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
It may be helpful for you to actually walk through an example of the savings. For example, DPL has been charging roughly about 9 cents. And some of the offers up there are typically around 6 cents. That's a 3 cent cubic foot, whatever the measurement, savings. And on an average house that uses 10 or 12,000, you're talking, maybe $300 a year.
Sure.
And so that's what.
Yeah, and at the end of your, thank you very much. That is true. So yeah, you would do. I guess we would walk through. We don't like to tell exactly what prices people should be looking for. Because it does change. Also, we don't want to feel responsible if somebody feels like they paid more or maybe less than what I said. But we have seen pretty significant savings. Some customers have seen pretty significant savings. Again, it's an opportunity, not a mandate. We still regulate that standard service offer that individuals get. You still receive that standard service offer, and that is regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. And it's the same for the standard choice offer. We administer and look over that auction that's held. What people do have the option for is looking for those cheaper rates that might be more beneficial to you as a customer. Also, it gives the opportunity for the customer, if they're interested, to look at green pricing models and other things like that they might be interested in. And as those products come to the market, people might see incentives other than price to switch over to competitive retail suppliers. But again, it's not a mandate. It's an opportunity that many people in the state have taken advantage of, and I would encourage you just to, even if you're not interested in it, thank you very much for coming out and learning a little bit about it. So at least when a competitive retail supplier or a competitive natural gas supplier comes to you, at least you know exactly what you're purchasing, or not interested in purchasing. So for that, I commend you for coming out tonight.
Just a comment, then a question, but as this one was saying, a few weeks ago I had a DP&L Energy or whoever come around, very nice person, retired from the Air Force, and said that they want to still keep me as their customer, so they're offering me lower rates. Well, you feel, well, why didn't they do this a year ago? Why are they doing it now? Because they're losing customers.
Right.
So that's a little disappointing that, we'll take your money until it's not so convenient, and then we'll offer you a lower rate. But aside from that, so what we're talking about is, if you get a bill from DP&L or whoever other supplier it is, it's going to show you the amount of regulated money you're paying for the distribution lines, and then what they can offer, what they're charging you for your gas or electric.
Yes.
So whatever bill you're going to get, is it going to show that regulated costs?
Yes, yes, sir. One of the things that happened with restructuring was that the bills did, as many people say, get more complicated. We try to show the customer exactly where their money is going, whether it's alternative energy riders, transmission riders, transmission costs, distribution cost, and generation. Generation's about 50% of your bill, but the only reason you can really figure that out is because of the new bill structure, that you can see where that money's coming from. But when you see your new bill, most people don't even notice a difference. The only thing that is going to be different about your new bill is that it will say exactly who your competitive retail supplier is, and what price you're currently paying for what what you're buying.
So to try and put it in simple terms, if your bill is $100 a month, and 50 of that is the regulated cost.
Yes.
That's going to be $50 from whoever that bill is coming from.
Yes, no matter who you choose, it is $50 is going to Dayton Power and Light to maintain the grid. Yeah, and that money goes to Dayton Power and Light. That also goes to PJM, who administers the, interstate market that we belong to. But yeah, Dayton Power and Light is the bulk of that.
The other half of the bill, the variable piece.
Yes.
When you look at somebody advertises that you're being charged a 9 cents, whatever.
Right.
And they're offering you for 5 cents. But stop and think. You're dealing with small potatoes. 5 cents over half a bill.
Right.
Come on.
Right. Well, yeah. A lot of people say it's not worth the fuss, and I would say if you don't think that whatever you'd be saving is not worth the fuss, then it's definitely not worth the fuss to you. Some people are able to save several $100s, and that might be big potatoes to them. But again, small businesses and large industrial consumers that have large electricity or natural gas bills, huge footprints, those potatoes start adding up pretty quick. So while it might be just a small portion of your bill, for those industrial consumers, small businesses, even large residential consumers, all electric homes in particular, that might be a much larger percentage of their take-home income that they might be leaving on the table.
But I doubt if there's any industrial consumers in this room.
Yeah, well, yeah, you never know, but but that's where it really came from. Industrial consumers were the first people to jump aboard. Now it's kind of trickling down to residential consumers. People are starting to make offers to residential consumers, especially in this part of the state, that haven't been there. And that's part of my job, is because this has been around for industrial consumers for a better part of a decade. Residential consumers are just starting to get sort of advertise this, starting to see the commercial on TV, on the radio, and that's why there's a little bit more interest, just because it's been just in the last few years that you've been advertised as consumers.
Are there any cities who study these questions and conclude the best deal, at least for themselves, and thus perhaps for the people who live there?
I guess the city of Oakwood studied that at a point. The city of Dayton right now is currently looking into an aggregation. There's aggregations. If you go to our website, another thing that you might notice is that we also have all of the little parts of our state, municipalities, counties that are aggregated. We have those listed in a very easy to see map across the state. So you can see that cities in the Cleveland area, Toledo area, have looked into it, have taken advantage of that savings. But that's up to the municipality or the county. But that's up to kind of the local buying power of the area. Some communities have such a small population that it might not be worth it to them to kind of bundle together. It might be just as fine just going as just individual consumers. So, but it isn't up to the individuals in that area. Yes, sir.
What kind of fraudulent activities are you seeing in the energy marketing business?
Yeah, one of the things that we, I guess you guys have already touched on is door-to-door marketers. I guess not only just in energy business, but across, a lot of people get confused about energy. Energy is definitely a complicated subject. I guess I covered a 20-minute presentation here, but I don't think I've hit anything below the surface. it is a complicated business. Some people get confused. Sometimes their contracts don't match what they may have thought they said on the phone, and that's why I'd say it's so important to look at that contract that you're signing, because you may be confused. The salesman that has some experience, maybe not enough experience, may be a little confused on the topic. But that's where if you just look at your contract, they're usually, from my experience, pretty simple for a residential consumer, pretty simple to read. And if you kind of go over those subjects that we covered tonight, we've got more questions that you can ask in the back. It does help alleviate a lot of issues when people look at the contracts on the front end, definitely. And if you do have any issues with fraudulent practices, please give us a call. We do monitor the market. We do work with the Attorney General's office as well. And the Attorney General has been pretty out front with fraudulent practices. So, yes, sir.
You've dealt pretty much with the front end and looking at the contracts and advantages of possible advantages of a lower rate.
Yeah.
But what about the back end? What happens? How much do we need to know in advance that we're reaching the end of the cliff, so to speak? Running out of time, will they be calling us and saying, you're going to be coming at the end of your contract?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's...
So after you enter a contract with someone?
What are the implications of what's been happening with this and experiences of people when they do get to the back end?
Right.
What's the transition like?
I know it's up to individual companies to see how they deal with the current consumers that they have. On the back end, you might have your company that's your current retail supplier might call you to see if you want to re-up for another year, 2 years, things like that. But it depends on company to company. Like some cell phone companies will give you a call, shoot you a text when you're kind of coming up to the end of your contract. It's up to the company to kind of decide what they think is the best practice for dealing with the consumers. But I would just circle a date on your calendar at home or circle a calendar. That would be probably the best way for you to be pretty secure in what you're looking at. So,
something you had said a bit earlier, I'm make sure I don't misunderstand you, but is there some sort of regulated rate top of the line now, or something where there is a regulated rate somewhere that it can't go above?
You're looking at it on your contract that your standard service offer is what you're currently paying. As far as a regulated rate that we say this is a cap on how much money a contract is, no, that doesn't exist. Just because every person might have a different interest in what they want to buy as far as consumers go. I would say look at your standard service offer. That's going to give you a very good baseline of what you're currently paying. If you want to pay more than you're currently paying, I mean, by all means, but most people look at that as sort of the top of what they want to pay. But depending on your demand charges, things like that, your price could go above what people would consider a normal rate would be. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Once a consumer does enter the deregulated market, is there a mechanism to allow them to go back to their regulated supplier? And if there is, how do they find the standard offer so that they can compare it at the end?
Right. Your standard offer is not going to go away. It's still going to be on your bill. It's going to be the price to compare that's featured on your bill when you're before you enter the market. It's still going to be there when you're in the market, so you can compare that regulated rate to what you're currently paying. That shouldn't go away in your bill. If you want to exit the market, you're no longer interested in being with a Crest supplier, you can always give us a call. We will work with your company to switch you back to the standard service offer. But again, that's something to look at with termination fees. We get that question a lot. So if you're not interested in paying a termination fee, if you think you might be jumping back to the standard offer at any time, I would make sure you're getting something with low to zero termination fee. But that's up to the consumer. But give us a call, and we will work to get you back. Also, your utility would also work with you on that one.
I'm confused because you said there is a regulated rate.
Yeah. Sorry. There's a standard regulated rate for what you're currently getting as residential consumers. So that's something that's set by the Public Utilities Commission. That's what you currently see on your bill. If you're not a shopping customer, you're currently paying that standard regulated rate. What I thought you were referring to is a capped rate for retail suppliers. Sorry about that. Yeah, there's not a cap rate that we say that it can't go above. But we would say as residential consumers, use that, whatever your standard rate is, to really decide whether competitive retail electric or natural gas supplier is right for you.
So we've never changed that we know of, then we're paying the regulated rate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
What supplier is the city of Oakwood buying from, gas and power?
We are buying our electricity with some 20 other municipalities from DPL-ER, which is the unregulated arm of DP&L. And we're in I think it's a one-year contract. It's set to expire in December, and so we're about the business of looking at the market for that. Pardon me? Gas. Gosh, I should know that. I don't know, but we're buying from an alternate supplier for the city facilities. And you know, I guess to explain that decision, you know, that's something that we look at with a bunch of other municipalities and decide for the government itself we feel comfortable doing. Making that decision for all of you via an aggregation program is something that we don't feel comfortable doing, particularly because of how volatile the market is.
Right. So I guess that's a good example of local governments, of those small businesses, those non-residential consumers taking advantage of those market rates that they might be able to do to get bundled together to bring those prices down. So that is available for communities to bundle together, like they're bundling their city buildings together. That's also available. I guess we said that in the a government aggregation is available for consumers if the city council or the local government's looking into that. So, yes, sir.
So there are a lot of people here who are worried about the standard choice offer being the one that they want to stay with. Do you see, does PUCO see in the future that they're going to go away with the standard choice offer?
No, not at this time. Standard service offer for Dayton Power and Light and all of the there's absolutely no plans for any of the utilities to get rid of that standard service offer for any of those electric utilities. So if you're comfortable with staying at that standard service offer, there's no push by the Public Utilities Commission to mandate a switch over. It's up to you as a consumer to see if that's right for you. Thank you for the question. That was good. Sir.
Regarding your apples-to-apples chart, you had a term on there, RS resident, RH resident.
Yeah.
What are they?
I believe every part of the state's different on what their their tariff rates include. But I think the resident RS means resident small business, and I think RH is resident household, and that's determined what you are as a consumer to them. So your code as a resident homeowner would be I believe an RH, but I'd have to check that because AEP, DP&L, First Energy, they all have different sort of acronyms, or they all have different initials for what a consumer might be labeled for them. But that just means if they're featured on the apples to apples chart, those are offers for residential consumers. So you can kind of feel assured that if it's featured on our apples to apples chart, it is for residential consumers to take advantage of. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
How often do you update the chart?
We update the chart once a week. I guess all of the competitive retail suppliers will send us their new offer. It might be the same as it was last week. It might be a little different. It might include new incentives. But we update it once a week. It's usually on a Monday for electricity. And I think Wednesday, or depending on your natural gas supplier, it might be Wednesday for natural gas. But yes, ma'am.
Is there any information on the website as to how or where this energy is produced?
Yes. Yes. As a consumer, you have the opportunity, and it's mandated that you have you can ask your competitive retail supplier, where does your electricity come from? If you want to get a look at the state at large, we have those numbers available, but each retail electric supplier procures their electricity from different sources, be they coal, natural gas, renewable, et cetera. So you want to go to your competitive retail electric supplier and see what might be right for you, because a member of an environmental group might want a lot more renewables involved in their electricity, whereas somebody that's just going for price or something else might have a different mix in mind. So.
Follow-up question. Are there any environmental considerations to where where the electricity is produced as opposed to how it's produced.
As far as within the, I guess, Ohio, as far as the state of Ohio goes?
Versus, it's produced, in the Northeast or whatever.
Right. Well, I guess you want to ask somebody, part of our energy environment team, if you give me your contact information afterwards, I'd love to put you in touch with them. There are environmental considerations that the state of Ohio, the legislature of Ohio, has put on our power markets to mandate that we get a certain percentage from renewable, a certain percentage from solar. We don't mandate where exactly it comes from within the state of Ohio, but there is we do have a requirement that if you're buying or you're selling renewable energy into the state of Ohio, or say that you do, it has to be available to be fed into Ohio's grid. So while we can't track the actual electrons that get to your house, you can be assured that you are purchasing those from electricity that is getting into the grid of Ohio. So I'd be happy to pass along that information to you afterwards.
There's that adage, that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But say we get an offer from ABC company that for the next 6 months to a year, we'll offer gas or electric at X cents per whatever.
Right.
Well, do we have the option to say, well, I want it for 2 years. If that's a good deal, I want it for 2.
Right.
And bargain with them?
Yes. No, that's an excellent question. As a consumer, you do have power in that area to ask them questions, to change your contract a bit. They might not be willing to change a contract. Just like when you buy a car or buy anything, you have the opportunity for a bit of wiggle room there. But yeah, as far as a residential consumer, you can sign up for a longer contract. Even one company may even have a very similar price per kilowatt hour, but have a 2-year contract, 1-year contract. And that's usually listed on our apples to apples chart. But you can call them to see if there might be another contract that might work better for you that's not even listed on our apples to apples chart.
Deeply now that offered a year, 2 years, and then we just started a 3 and 4 year.
Right.
Interesting. So it sounds like they're willing to work with you.
Yeah. And you'll I guess they're in sales. They're in the business of selling you electricity or natural gas. So it's in their, I guess, competitive advantage to offer you products that you want as a consumer. But yeah, I would ask questions. If you have a problem with something on the contract, you think the termination fee might be too high, they may have a product that might be a little bit more something that you might be interested in. And I've seen a lot of flexibility with retail suppliers when you start asking questions, when you start saying, well, I'm already involved in a contract that does have a termination fee. When you start kind of explaining the situations, that's when they're able to work with you to make the experience of you being a consumer even better. So again, you have the opportunity to negotiate. You have the ability to take it as it shows on our chart. You also have the ability to, I guess, take the information you heard today and stick with your standard offer. So you do have a number of options available to you as consumers. Yes, sir.
In reference to the question was about the environmental concerns, is the electricity grid for the United States, out of curiosity, is it the grid within the United States, produced within the United States, or might this be coming from a country that doesn't have the environmental concerns?
I understand. No. We're sort of delving into that energy environment, and when you start going to the wholesale markets and things like that, things get way more complicated. If you think this is too easy, it's way too it would be way too dumbed down. But as far as you're concerned, as far as residential consumers, as far as Ohio law is concerned, if you're feeding electricity into the grid, if you're a retail electric supplier, if you're my customer, I have to make sure that I would have the opportunity to feed in electrons that you could use as a consumer. So you couldn't set up a coal plant in Peru and start saying that you're feeding electricity into the transmission grid, just like you couldn't set up a electricity plant in California and say, oh, well, you're buying electricity from me. I'm XYZ company. It does have to be fed into our local grid, the PJM system, and as well as the Ohio network that we're a part of. So you can be assured that you are getting that electricity is being fed to you by a local generator. Oh, sorry. Yeah, in the back. Oh, sorry. Second row. Yeah, from the back. Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell me how we should evaluate the reputation of the companies that are available?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I would say I would evaluate these companies just like I evaluate everyone, every company, or any decision I make, especially ones that relate to a contract. I would make sure that they're certified by the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. That means that they've met our standards of compliance. I would also, if you're interested, there are private companies like the Better Business Bureau, things like that also evaluate the companies. I'd also check out different websites that might have reviews for their experience as consumers. That's a little, I guess that's above and beyond, and that's great as a consumer that you kind of have those opportunities. But as far as as a consumer, if you go to our apples to apples chart, all of these have been certified by the Public Utilities Commission, which means that they do meet our standards of service. So you can go above and beyond, and that's great. That's, I guess, your opportunity as a consumer.
I guess if one of these companies on that chart went out of business,
yes,
do you get bumped back to the old DP&L, whatever, as the last resort?
There are. Again, I'd be happy to give you the information. If your company goes out of business, there are contingency plans in place. You'll be taken care of as a consumer. So don't feel like, and that's part of our policy for being that regulatory arm. We do make sure that all of these companies are, have the ability to stay open, stay in business, have the interest in staying in Ohio. We have not had any companies, threaten bankruptcy or anything like that. And most of these companies operate in different states. Some of them operate, I guess, internationally. So a lot of these companies have, pretty developed retail electric arms, know what they're doing as far as electricity goes. So there's not a lot of, I guess, for lack of a better term, mom and pop shops that set up. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but these are usually very developed businesses that have pretty developed plans. And we do have that regulatory arm that does mandate that they meet certain criteria, especially financial, to make sure in the case of any sort of bankruptcy that you'll be taken care of as a customer.
Let me just add one comment to that question. That is, one of the reasons why the regulated price is higher than some of these offers that you're given is that the regulated companies are required under Ohio law to take back any customer that wants to go back. And so in order to be able to service all those customers that may come back, they have to have the infrastructure and the means to accept them. So it's kind of a what-if scenario for them, and they collect a little bit extra money, frankly, to absorb that. So no one is left without power or gas at any time.
And I guess on that, you are, as consumers, there's a mandated non-bypassable riders, another, I guess, industry gobbledygook, but there's something called a non-bypassable rider that all consumers have. It's called a universal service rider. And you as consumers I guess you don't have the opportunity to leave that out of your bill. So you do help pay for those PIP programs, those heat programs. That is included on your bill, regardless of whether you're a regulated or unregulated customer. So, is anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Early on, you had on the screen the different competitive door-to-door.
Yes.
With contracts, and the lady across the aisle asked that she couldn't read it.
Oh, right.
Who some of those might be.
Oh, as far as those featured on our apples to apples chart, I can go to that page. I know it's really hard to see, but if you go, this is the sample of what our apples to apples chart looks like. If you go to our apples to apples chart, you'll see all of those companies and be able to really identify them. Yeah, this is just kind of a sample to see what it generally looks like. But, pardon?
What are the few of the names?
I guess I pulled this. I guess I should say I pulled this from the top of the site. So in alphabetical order, we've got AEP Energy, Border Energy, DP&L Energy, Duke Energy, First Energy Solutions. But there's Direct Energy. There's a ton of other companies that are also featured in the market that do sell to customers. So don't feel like these 7 offers are the only things that you have to look through. There's a ton of offers as a consumer that you have. So yeah. Yes, sir.
We keep talking about where to start from is that standard rate.
Yeah.
When is that set at a certain time every year so we know when that's going to
go
up or go down, or when?
Well, that is, I guess that kind of gets into our rate making process with the Public Utilities Commission. So I don't really want to go into that too much, but that's all set by electric security plans, different things that the regulated companies, Dayton Power and Light, Toledo Edison, Ohio Edison, Columbus Southern Power, they all have to give to us as public utilities, as the Public Utilities Commission, to see what's a fair rate to give to consumers. But there's not a certain date that they have to give that. But that price to compare rate does fluctuate month to month. But we do true that up and maintain that as a regulated body to make sure that you're paying for what for the electricity that you're getting, or the natural gas, for that matter.
Standard rate can go from month to month?
Yes, sir. Your standard rate, your price to compare, does go up and down depending on what energy prices are looking at that point. That standard choice offer that you're getting for natural gas does fluctuate up and down month to month. Is going to be often people find it more expensive during the winter when natural gas reserves are being used to heat homes than it is in the summer. So that's why a lot of people see a lot lower, other than you're not using as much, that's why they see a lot lower bills in the summer, because there's abundant supply of natural gas at that time because it's not being used. So both of those regulated those regulated prices, that standard service offer, that standard choice offer, do go up and down month to month depending on energy prices, whether it's natural gas or your electricity. Does anybody else have any other questions? Well, if that's it, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys coming out. Again, puco.ohio.gov, or give us a call on our SMED hotline, and hopefully they can answer all of your questions. But thank you very much for coming out.